Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this series of videos is Mars in the different signs, and this particular video is Mars in Taurus. If you've wandered here and didn't know what your Mars sign is in, please look below this video. I will have a link to a site which lists it. It is helpful to know your time of birth, however, because Mars changes signs on certain days. And so you will have, if you're born on certain days, you'll have two different signs that your Mars could potentially be in. However, even if you don't know what your time of birth is, chances are you're going to embody some characteristics of both of those signs because you're going to be on the cusp with Mars. So you can listen to both videos if you don't have your time of birth, and you'll be fine. You'll resonate with some things, I'm assuming, with both signs. So let's talk briefly about what Mars represents in general. Mars is your drive. It's what gets you up, motivated every day to do whatever it is that you want to do. Now, we can't isolate Mars, and we can't say that that is the only factor or marker that will indicate what drives you, because your sun sign is going to embody your basic personality and goals in this lifetime. Your North Node is certainly going to guide you and be this North Star that makes you want to accomplish certain things and maybe have a certain soul's mission. So we have to combine these things. We can't isolate them. However, this is really a great way of looking at how a person handles anger, how they motivate themselves, how they motivate other people. Because let's face it, sometimes we want another person to do something, and we have our different tactics. I just did the video for Aries, Mars and Aries. They are very pushy. They're going to be very direct with people and say, hey, do this. I want you to do this. That is not Mars in Taurus, however. Mars in Taurus, or let's just go back to Mars itself. Mars is also going to be your libido, your sex drive, and how you interact with another person in that way. So it gets very interesting when it gets into that arena, because this is going to affect your romantic relationships. Now let's talk about how Taurus expresses anger. Taurus is the bull. You wave the cape in front of the bull, eventually it goes crazy, right? But Taurus people tend to be very chill. They tend to be a sign that does not get very irascible or irritable or a rageaholic type of a person. Now, remember that the moon represents emotion. So if a Taurus person has the moon in Aries, if a Mars and Taurus person has a moon in Aries, this could certainly affect how quickly they get angry. It might alter that. But in general, they're going to be very peaceful to be around. But if there's something that they don't like and they don't share it right away, eventually it can build up, and then it's like a volcano. So this is something that may confound people who are used to their peace-loving nature. And remember that Taurus is ruled by Venus. So Venus likes harmony. Venus doesn't want a scene. Venus rules both Taurus and Libra, and they have similar temperaments in that they don't want to get upset. Now, they may deal with anger a bit differently, but they have that in common. Actually, Taurus loves the easy life. And so Mars in Taurus is motivated to having a life that is comfortable. And usually this involves nice things, right? So somebody with Mars in Taurus can be quite materialistic so that they can get a lot of money, so that they can buy nice things. And because Taurus is a fixed earth sign, they can be relentless when it comes to this. Mars being one's drive and having it in a fixed sign like this can make them have incredible endurance, physical endurance, where they're able to just work like a machine. Now, they have to be motivated, just like any other sign, in order to do this. So you have to provide them with enough incentive, or else they're not going to want to do it. And talking about this drive or this bent towards materialism, we have to look at this in the context of, is this a good thing? Is this a negative? Like a challenging part of their nature? It depends. It can light a fire under somebody who tends to be rather passive, like a sun in Pisces. If they have Mars in Taurus, they may be a lot more aggressive. When I say aggressive, it's not like Aries, Mars in Aries. It's like, that's not a good choice of words. They might be a lot more driven to amass money, amass possessions, and they might have more stick-to-itiveness because of the fixed nature of Taurus, okay? And, because Pisces is a mutable water sign, so they're very subject to change. But in that one regard, when it comes to that particular part of life, so that would be the work life, they may have a very good work ethic because they're very consistent and they're very driven to reaping the rewards of their work. And the challenge of this is that if they're working in less than ideal in a less than an ideal environment, this can cause them to stay simply for the sake of the money. When I do tarot readings, and I do tarot readings on YouTube as well as privately, and I get the Devil card, which connects to Capricorn, one of the big themes of this card is over materialism and how that creates bondage within the person. So this could happen with Taurus, with a Mars and Taurus person, where they are unhappy with whatever job they're on, but they just can't let it go because the pay is too good. Or they are very they are very unhappy in a personal relationship, but the sex is off the chain and they just can't give that up. That's kind of an addictive, obsessive quality. And definitely with Mars in a fixed sign, there can be this obsessiveness in how the person pursues something. And again, with Taurus, it's going to be something sensual, something that makes them feel good and makes them feel comfortable, makes them feel sexy. So these kinds of issues are important. Now, in terms of like accomplishing goals, Taurus is very good at what we call the tortoise and the hare syndrome, where they can be that tortoise that takes forever to do something, but they win out in the long run because they have the endurance. They outlast other people, okay? And this kind of thing is, I think, undervalued in our society. We make a big deal of people who strike it rich right away, or they become famous right away. something along those lines. And we don't really give as much credit to the person who hangs in there and continues to plod away day after day, month after month, until they reach their goal, even if it takes them a lot longer, because they're going to have a kind of anti-momentum, I would call it in a weird way, where time becomes their best friend. And this is because Taurus is very patient, that they are willing to wait for the best time to do something, the best time to act. They're not just going to be like a Mars and Aries person. Oh, I've got to do something. I'm just going to do it now, even if it's half-assed. They're not going to do that. They're going to be more deliberate, okay? But they're also going to have more staying power than a Mars and Aries person, for instance. There's also a desire for security with these people. And this is where it gets a bit tricky also, because let us say that a person who has Mars and Taurus is getting a divorce. It can be like the War of the Roses, where they refuse to let go of certain items because they've really identified with those things in terms of the marriage, or in terms of not wanting, maybe they say, this is mine. You know, I could see a Mars and Taurus person from the time they were a baby saying mine, mine, maybe even being the first word that they utter. And this is problematic because it can lead to greed. It can lead to over dependence on material possessions to the point where they possess the person. The possessions possess the person. Think about hoarders, people who can't let go of anything, or people who are spendthrifts. Even though Taurus, as an earth sign, has a good grasp on finances, ruling the second house of earned income, with Mars there can be this desire to acquire. I didn't think that was going to rhyme. And so we have to look at the potential pitfalls in that. And that could lead to getting embroiled in a nasty divorce because the person is unwilling to part with certain material items and staying connected to that person that they're trying to get rid of. And so that has to be looked at, because in terms of the spiritual growth, you don't want to ever be in that position of being too attached to material things. Don't push a Mars and Taurus person into action, because they will probably see red, and they might actually get angry a lot quicker than they typically will, because that's just a pet peeve with Taurus in general. They are very deliberate, and I'm saying they, but I'm talking to you. You are very deliberate, and you don't like somebody kind of pushing you to do anything. Now let's talk about sexy time, because to quote Borat, because that is certainly, with the sign of Taurus, is always going to be a very big deal. Now, with the sexual proclivities of Mars and Taurus, it's pretty straightforward, because Taurus is a very down-to-earth, straightforward sign. It's the first earth sign. So there's not a lot of artifice. The people, this is actually very admirable, that these people don't pretend to be something that they're not in order to get the goods. And they just are very genuine in, the naturalness that sex is. However, they do enjoy indulging in the senses. So that is something that is appealing to them, and they don't need anything to be conceptual, like, role playing or anything like that. It's just good old-fashioned sex. And the thing about it is, if you're somebody who needs all these bells and whistles, you might be kind of frustrated because you might think that the Mars and Taurus person is going to be quite boring because they're pretty consistent. Even when it comes to sex, they're going to do things the same way. But they will naturally be good at it because they're an earth sign and they got it like that. So anyway, the only thing that I would say with either Venus and Mars and Taurus is watch out if you have that, is don't be possessive. Don't treat your partner like they're an object. Don't objectify them, because that isn't right. People are not just sex objects. And it can be very easy to get caught up in the sex and forget about the whole person. And to think that you even own them like you own your computer. So just be a lot more advanced when it comes to that type of thing. Because I call Taurus the meat and potatoes sign, because it is very basic. It's not a complicated sign. It's not a pretentious sign. And so everything that is done in a very genuine, straightforward way. And also, typically, a mellow way. Okay, well, that's what I have for you. And if you would like a private reading where I do stuff like this for you and talk about other things and find out where Mars is in your chart too, which is important, you can also find me below. I have a natal chart interpretation where I do just that. Take care. Bye.